am delighted to say that I'm in conversation with Kathy Urban, author of Hop Lola Hop books. Now, Kathy is a multilingual journalist, and she's been reporting on news, entertainment, and environmental issues for over a decade. And she freelanced for British and international organisations like Reuters, BBC, and ITN. Now, as an avid reader since she was a child, Kathy grew up admiring the works of great storytellers and the imaginary worlds, of course, that they created. But it was listening to the stories her dad would tell her as a child that prompted Kathy to make up stories for her own children. Her books are inspired by her experiences as a parent and her daughter's favourite comfort toy, Hop Lola Hop. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
My dad also told me stories. He used to just make them up. Sometimes he'd forget where he'd got to and I'd have to tell him off because I remembered as a child what he said last night. And then he did the same to my kids. And in the end, he ran out of some of his make-believe stories, and then he told them true lies, which were, you know, when he made up stories about his own life or something, and a rabbit or a squirrel. So anyway, he inspired me, and obviously your dad inspired you. So tell us about your journey. I mean, how did it all begin? I know that you've been freelance journalist, as I've said in the introduction, but you know, you've traveled as well all around the world. I think you're based in Dubai now, aren't you?
Yes, currently this is what home is, so to speak. You know, we live in Dubai. We've been living on and off there since 2015. But yeah, when we're going back to where it all started, I mean, I spent most of my teens and early my 20s in London, where I went to school, where I studied, where I met my husband, where I you know, where I got my first job with one of the national news broadcasters. And you know, I come from a very, very small town, you know, a few souls. And so for me, it was a dream come true, you know, getting exposed, like working on some amazing, you know, global stories as well. I mean, you know, London has, you know, it's a melting pot of stories and people and everything. So, you know, it was a great experience that I've had. I've really enjoyed. But when it came to us, you know, when we made the decision to move abroad, you know, the priorities shifted because I was a young mom as well, and I had to figure out how to, you know, juggle, you know, the mom side of things with the work side of things. I've always worked, but I decided I needed to try something else. And then it was actually my husband who said to me, Kathy, you know, as you've mentioned in the introduction, you know, you always make up these stories. Why don't you write your own books? And I thought, well, that's a nice idea. But as you know, as a mom, you have to be very flexible. So there were a lot of sort of false starts and breaks, a lot of babies, a lot of moves. But yeah, at some point, I just, you know, made the decision to, okay, I'll sit down and I'll write those stories. And yeah, and the first Hop Lola Hop book was the result of that. And I realized I'm really enjoying that sort of new adventure. It's really a journey. But yeah, I'm hoping to continue that for a while.
Oh, it's so enjoyable and they're so delightful. Tell us about the first book. I love that one in particular because I think loads of children can relate to it, and parents, of course, as well. But tell us about your first book and then your other books too.
Yes, of course. So yeah, this is Hop Lola Hop. This is the first book. And like you said, it is very relatable. I think you know, a lot of us, not just the kids that we raise, but a lot of us ourselves, we will have had a little comfort toy at some point, you know, a teddy bear. It might be a blanket or something we've connected with as kids, and that, you know, when we think back, you know, we will remember fond moments, fond memories. But there might have been instances where, you know, we lost them. Maybe we found them again, maybe we didn't. I definitely had a little one. I had a raccoon when I was a kid. And in the case of Hop Lola Hop, you know, the stories are based on a real toy bunny. Her name is Lola. It's my eldest daughter's favorite comfort toy. And, you know, when we grew up, I always like to say, I forgot to read that part in the parenting manual that says, don't lose them or have a backup toy. Yes. I did not. I was just so busy writing, working as a journalist. I had not the time to read all of that. So when it came to that dreaded situation that, you know, we lost her on a day out, I think it was Bental Center in Kingston, when my parents called me, like, I know it well. We don't know who she is. The first thing I could think of, I just made up a little scenario and said, well, you know what, Emma, I don't think she's lost. I think she's just having a bit of fun. And what that did to us, it sort of took the edge off the situation.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I wanted to reassure her. I had no idea at that time whether we're going to find her again and what we're going to do next. We have been very lucky to have always found her again, thanks to some lovely people who would call us, who would find her, who would place it on the top of the bench. But it's not always the case. And so in that story, it is based on, Lola and Ella, that little girl in the story, this very first book, as you mentioned. They're going out on a, random day-to-day walk onto the high street. High streets are a wonderful place of adventure for children. But as it happens, at the beginning of the story, again, a very relatable situation. Ella falls, probably has a bit of a tantrum. Mom decides to make bring about a bit of a change to the usual routine, which is taking out the old stroller, which Lola, who's very active, that very active little toy bunny, does not enjoy, and decides at some point to hop off. And then what we find in the story, we see Ella obviously being distraught, trying to find her bunny. Again, very relatable. What's at the same time, Lola's also trying to find her way back to her friend, but she's also having a bit of fun. I know why you like the story, I think, because there's a little doggy in the book as well. That dog, again, is based on a real dog that I know, who I love. Her name is Luna. And when Siski, my illustrator, asked what type of dog would you like, I said, that type of dog. This is the ones I love. So there you go. So it's the very first one. It's my favorite one as well, because it's my first book. So in many ways, It's very special to me.
Yes, like your first baby, isn't it? In a sense of creation.
It's my
and
baby.
Your daughter, she must just adore the stories, mustn't she?
Oh, she absolutely loves them. And there's a little anecdote when the first, when as an author you get the first sort of proof copy sent ahead before all the rest of the lot comes in. So I was very happy, wanted to read it to the children, but the next day it was gone. Turns out she took it into school and showed it to her class.
Oh.
And it is, because she is involved. It wasn't just inspired by her and her bunny, but there is actually a letter at the beginning of the book that was written to her.
That's right. I love this. It's so personal, isn't it? It's so delightful. Yeah.
And it was, that was actually, funnily enough, it's the first bit you see when you open the book, but it was the last element we added to the story. It was a very ad hoc decision by myself, because she wrote a little diary. That was like 4 years ago. She wrote a little diary entry to her class, what she was up to, where she beautifully expressed her feelings about losing her toy bunny. And I thought it was so lovely that I've edited quite heavily. But I then said to her, Emma, I think it would be lovely if you could actually write it yourself, use your handwriting. This has been written by then 6-year-olds. And so for her, it is incredibly important, incredibly special as well. And she continues to be a little, to sort of, have a few cooperations with me on some of the books. The second story, you will see something. There's also some handwriting that's all done by her.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute. I just love it, you see, because the story behind the story is so interesting as well. And it's personal, but it makes it so relatable, doesn't it? So it's so lovely. So tell us about the second one, because I love that one as well, because I like strawberries. So tell us about that.
Yes. That happened as I was literally munching away on a ton of strawberries. It was last summer at my parents'. We had just been strawberry picking. And again, what I'm trying to do with those stories is I'm trying to find very relatable scenarios, which also include relatable settings. There's no point in sending Lola to the moon and making something up completely, out of the real. I want something that kids, whenever they pick up the book, or the parents as well, to see, yes, this is something I can relate to. Of course, Lola comes alive in the book, so there is a lot of artistic license I've taken, but I think it's important that they can see, this could actually happen. Maybe this is the case. So in the second book, they don't go to the park; they go to the local market, to the farmers market. I think, again, it's another beautiful adventure playground, taking the kids. My kids love going to the supermarkets, love exploring the different shelves, and sometimes trying, the bits and bobs. So that happens as well. Just turns out that Lola and Ella on the day are so eager to do their own shopping that they wander off. And again, I'm trying to kind of take the scariness away in the books, because they are for little children, but it is a very scary scenario. I've definitely had it. And, sometimes it just lasts a minute. You turn around, the kids are gone. And you have to find them. But I think it is something that also should open a discussion to an extent, because it is something that is, it could become the worst. And something I always say to my children, if I don't know where you are. I cannot help you if you are in trouble. And that's something I keep repeating again and again. I try and stay calm whenever these situations arise. I don't try to be too moral in my stories. You know, there are adventure stories, but I think there's always some truth you can hide in those.
Yes.
And I hope, particularly the second story, because it is very important to me that they understand, you know, something like that can turn, you know, upside down.
Yes. I mean, actually, I remember it personally myself. We were in Spain and in a market, funny enough, with my mum and dad. And my dad and mum had taught me to stand still if I get lost, right? And that little piece of information was just brilliant, because I got lost. They retraced their steps and there I was, you know, a little bit boo-hoo, I think, and upset. But I hadn't wandered further or wandered away even more. So they came and found, you know, they found me. So that's why I like the messaging. It's so gentle, but it starts, you see, I'm a great believer that books start conversations, you know, big conversations sometimes with little people. And your books are aimed for what age range, really, do you think?
There are, I mean, there are ideally for the little ones, you know, for the, we say it's 3 to 6 years. It's the early readers, the kids who start to read. You know, I go to a lot of, you know, book readings in schools, and it's quite fun because we have a lot of sound words hidden in the, you know, in the books. And it's funny, whenever I read the books, the kids are trying to read along and I can hear them saying hop or splash and things like that. So they are really for them. They're engaging, they're gentle, they're soft, but they're fun as well at the same time. They're quite interactive. So even if, you know, mom or dad or granny is not around to read the book, they can pick up the book themselves and explore it independently. I have a few features. There are a lot of details in some of the scenes. We have that market scene in the second book, for instance, you know, where Lola and Ella are gone, and, you know, the kids then have to go and find it. One of my favorite, and that has been actually very well received by readers, is that it's called the Easter Bunny hidden feature. So my illustrator has hidden little tiny toy bunnies in every single of the books. And so the kids, what they can do when they pick up the book, they can try
and find
it. Now, see, I'm always struggling to do that, but it's quite fun. So this is
yes.
So it is for kids to go and pick up the book again themselves, explore it independently. And again, it's always, I'm a firm believer in that, you know, play-based, playful learning. You know, if you force it, you know, they will only do as much as you ask them to. But if they enjoy doing it themselves, I think there's a lot to be had from that.
And they become a favourite, don't they? Young children love to have a story read to them over and over again. And often parents go, oh, gosh, I've got to read this again. But I'm always trying to explain to parents, because obviously I'm a former deputy head and class teacher for all those years. Children love those books. They know what's coming, because in a world where they're only little, it's always like, I don't really know. It's uncertain. I don't know what's coming next. Whereas with a lovely storybook, you know, they're drawn in, they know what's coming, and they're enjoying it. Tell us about the strawberry recipe at the end as well.
It's our family recipe. It's our family recipe.
Oh, wow, I love it.
So I you know, I always say there is the right book, the right type of reading for everyone. You know, we talk a lot about reading for pleasure for children, and as it so happens in my family, you know, one of my children is a reluctant reader. So she does read. You know, we read together a lot, but you have to find something that interests them, and it just so happens she loves cooking. She loves exploring recipes, and that's part of the inspiration for the second book came about when I thought, why don't I add a little recipe at the end of the story? So the kids, because as they go through the market, they pick up all the various ingredients for what they are about to cook at the end of it, which is pancakes. It's obviously there is an aspect of healthy eating. You know, we all know the sweeteners that we can use to make our pancakes, and they are sweet. Kids love them, but there are, you know, I want to offer other options as well. And when I was thinking, okay, what fruit can I choose that the kids will love and take to and might actually use whenever they make the recipe? It wasn't carrots, which, you know, most children associate little bunnies. You know, and I thought, like, you know, any kid would probably go for strawberries.
Absolutely.
And so that's how it came about. You know, and we definitely do that recipe. I'm also trying to be less messy, so hopefully parents will appreciate the fact that the yogurt I've added to the ingredient list actually goes into the batter. So if you do take the kids out, it's not a mess. you have the plain cake, you have the strawberries. You know, I'm trying to be very practical with these things.
I love it. I love all this gentle kind of messaging as well. It's not in your face. It's all there. It's healthy eating. It is all the things that children can relate to as well. And it's just huge fun. So it's just lovely.
Yeah, I like to think, look, those books have not been written by a nutritionist or by a journalist. I always say they have been written by a mum, you know. I love observing my children. I like to see what they're doing, and I'm trying to write what I see. And they love, like you say, they love adventure stories. So if you can sort of influence them, you know, tiny, you know, put in tiny nuances, that's beautiful. But what they want to read a fun adventure. And I think that's what the books, in its essence, what they are.
And I think the illustrations are beautiful too. They really complement it too. So children can enjoy looking at the pictures, having conversations just around the lovely illustrations.
Absolutely. And I think it is important. I mean, when you know, picture books, essentially there are 50% pictures. And I think this is really what, you know, the kids take to. And it was very important for me from the get-go to find someone who understands the stories, who, you know, who enjoys them, who can relate, but who I can work with as well. And so when I found Siski, who's the illustrator of those lovely stories, it was exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted, but I knew I couldn't do it myself. So it's very important that you trust someone who comes on board, who can relate. But I think what really helped the books as well was not just her incredible talent, but the fact that she thinks, you know, she pushes back as well. You know, she doesn't just, you know, I tell her what I want to do. We had a conversation where I always said, look, I want everything kind of being, you know, painted from a child's perspective. So when you go and see the books, everything is quite low on the ground, because I think that's important. Yes. But at the same time, she pushed back. There were things that she said, Kathy, I cannot illustrate that maybe that's too scary. I think we should do it this way. And I think as a result of that, sort of collaborative process that we had, you know, the books have come back out stronger.
You got the balance there. It's really rather nice, isn't it? It's great. Well, they really do complement the story, which I think children will really enjoy. Now, I know that you're a real advocate of literacy and reading, and you go into lots of schools and you go to libraries and trade fairs. Tell us a bit more about that side of what you do.
Yes, of course. We've just talked about it earlier. You know, there's a lot of talk about kids losing interest in reading for fun, which is a problem. I always say, when I go into schools, I always say, look, when I was, and they asked me, why did you like reading books? And I looked, you know, there wasn't much. Today it was raining, you know, I did have 2 awful channels on TV. There wasn't much for me to do. So this was like the way for me to escape the bedroom and to do something else. And there's a lot of competition these days. You know, kids have so many other things on offer, so it is difficult. But I'm a firm believer in there is a right book for everyone. That's something my mom always used to say, is like, look, maybe there's one book you don't like, someone else does, but you know, you just have to find the book. So what I do, I offer a lot of, I go to libraries and schools to read with the younger children. And it's fun. They're so engaged. You know, they love the stories. But I do work with the older primary years as well. And once they may be just out of the picture book, you know, time, they do enjoy the conversation about, you know, becoming an author, reading books, how a book is being made. And what I find interesting, because we do creative writing, I say I love making up stories. So something I do when I go to school and visit like the year 4s or 5s, we make up stories. I help them to create their own stories. And interestingly enough, those children that tell me at the beginning they don't really like or enjoy reading, they're the first ones who show me what they've written. So I think, you know, if you do give the kids the platform, if you empower them, you'll be surprised what they come up with at the end.
Absolutely. And you never know, you spark the next generation of authors, perhaps. You
don't know. I always
just don't know.
Someone at my, you know, when I was a kid to come. Nobody was coming to my little town school. You know, it's important. So I do a lot. Actually, I'm going. You know, I'm also, whenever I'm in the UK, I visit schools and libraries too. But most of my work obviously is in Dubai. I work a lot with the Emirates Literature Foundation, which is the local foundation that, you know, supports reading, and we travel the whole country. And it's interesting. It's a lot of fun.
Wow, what an interesting world you're living in now. Different one as well, complementing your other work too. So tell us about the Hop Lola Hop activities and the teaching resources. Where can people find those?
Yes, so they are available on my website, www.hoplolahop.com. The teaching resources have been created in consultation with my publisher and some early years teachers. And they're really like an extension to the books. If someone enjoys the books, if they want to, to do more, if they want to have a conversation, there's a lot of material you can find on my website. It starts with coloring sheets to, other little activities. My personal favorites are the little puppet dolls we've created.
Yes, I was going to ask you about those. They're lovely, aren't they?
You can cut them out, you can even send them as a postcard, but you can cut them out and then literally send Ella and Lola onto an adventure around your home. And I think it's a lovely thing, something I love to do. If there was a story character I liked to make up and then, send them onto different adventures. So yes, there's a lot.
Oh, there's lovely things. I mean, there's a lovely Lola doll, perfect, I think, for bedtime cuddles and things. And you have a baby bundle and lovely prints for bedrooms as well. Tell us a bit more about those lovely extensions to the book.
Yeah, I mean, so this is something people have asked me, when are you starting? When, do you have a Lola gift? Do you have a little doll? And so I thought, actually, it makes sense. The story essentially is about a comfort toy. It's nice if people just buy the books just for the books, but I think, and that is still my focus, but I think at the same time, it's lovely to offer them as a gift, and books make a perfect gift, for young ones, even as a baby shower gift. So I've created these bundles.
Yeah,
so I have a little visitor here.
Hello, little visitor.
I'm coming in a minute.
Oh, how lovely.
So Lola came along. This is Lola, a little crochet doll that has been made. That's been made together with a local crochet maker in Dubai. So I love working with local businesses, support each other. I'm a firm believer in supporting each other and like spreading the message.
Yes.
So we created those dolls and a few other bits and bobs, which are again available from my website, but I also sell them through some of the local children's boutiques as well, mainly in Dubai. But if anyone is ever interested, there are always ways to make them available for international shipping as well.
So what's next for you?
So there is, in fact, another book coming up in the Hop Lola Hop series. I've always wondered what would happen if Lola were to meet Santa. So that's what we're having. We're having a little Christmas story, and I'm so excited about that. It's fun as well, but there's always a few little elements that my husband actually said at the end. It made him, it even made him cry a little bit at the end. So it's a very heartwarming story. I don't want to say too much yet, but I really can't wait to release that and to read it to the children. I think it's going to be a perfect little, story for anyone who loves a comfort toy to read to children around Christmas time. Yes.
How lovely. So tell us the places where people can buy the book, and then tell us your website and all the places that we can find you.
Yeah. Everywhere. So of course, thanks today, e-commerce, the books are available online. They are also available in bookstores in the UK and the UAE. I always like to say, go and support your local bookshop. Ask about my book and they can order it in. So I have some lovely shops both in Dubai and in London that have been supporting the Hop Lola Hop series from the beginning, where they're available on the shelves. But any shop really can order the book in if you're interested. I also have distributors in Australia and in America as well. There are. If you would like to find out more.
Yes, well, we'll put the website on the end of this as well, but tell us again slowly where the website is. What is it?
Yes, so I have a website, www.hoplolahop.com. Again, it has a lot of resources, but you can also buy the book through the website as well, if you were interested in. I mainly use that for the school visits, whenever I do the school visits. That is one form. You can also get in touch with me if you have any questions. I love getting feedback. I get a lot of feedback from parents who write emails to me and tell me about how much their kids love the books. I get a lot of interest from, which is interesting, other moms who then write and ask me how I started writing the books. I think there's a lot of interest these days. I don't know whether it's been encouraged through the pandemic. I'm not sure. Of people who've decided, we have this little idea in our head, and we would love to, to make more of it. And I always
Yes.
say there's a story in everyone. You just have to
Yes.
find
Yeah.
the time and put in the effort to really make it shine and make it the best possible version of itself. So I'm always happy whenever I have time to answer questions that end as well.
So tell us your social media platforms. What are you across all of those?
Oh, probably all of them now by now.
But
so
tell us. Yeah.
I am. I'm on Instagram at hop_Lola_hop. I'm also on Twitter and on Facebook at Hop Lola Hop. And I've recently joined Threads, and like probably everyone else, I'm still figuring that one out. There are still no hashtags, right?
Yeah, no hashtags.
But yeah, I mean, anyone who wants to find out more about me, I regularly post about some of the story readings I'm doing, about my books, about some of my visits and the other work I'm doing as well, as part of the writing process. So if you're interested, to follow me, reach out to me.
Yeah, lovely. Well, they're delightful books, and it's so lovely to meet the author behind the words. I always love chatting and to hear what's coming next. So it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.